All right. Hey, everybody. I am super excited because I have a super cool guest. Let me tell you a little bit about her. Emily is a 32-year-old board certified behavior analyst and a life coach. Born and raised in Southern Louisiana, she runs a clinic for children with autism where she provides support and training to families and staff. She has a master's in psychology and is certified through the Adult Chair. Through her life coaching, she helps clients work on self discovery and awareness, question and transform limiting beliefs, and create a life they don't need to escape from. She enjoys nature, specifically flowers and birds, spending time with her loved ones, yoga, self care, as well as the occasional reality TV. I am happy to welcome Emily Gilcrease. Hello,
Thank you so
hello.
much, Trish.
Thank you for being here. And super impressive bio, by the way. So
thank you. It's from the heart.
Yeah, I didn't even know I knew about the clinic, but I didn't realize you were a behavior analyst and a master's in psychology and just like super cool. So go you.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm very passionate about it. I think I've always kind of been a helper, so it makes sense. The two jobs, how they kind of go together, you know?
Yeah, I can tell that about you. I have to tell you something kind of funny that every time I hear the song As It Was by Harry Styles, I think of you. And I don't know if
oh my gosh, that's so funny because I feel like the time when we met, I was so into that song. So maybe I was playing it. I don't know, but that is one of my jams. So that's like on brand that you would think that.
Yeah. So it's so our last night in training, we were dancing on the balcony at Stacy's. And that song came on and you said, "This is my song." And it just stuck. You know,
yes, I remember that.
Certain things just like stick in your memory. And that was one of them. Mm-hmm. And now every time I hear that, I think of you, which is cool.
I know. What a good time. Me, you, and Michelle out there dancing our little tails off. That was so fun.
It was a fun celebration of all the work we did.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we're here today to talk about creation sessions. Now, what I found interesting is when I Googled creation sessions, probably the first, I don't know, 50, 100, I don't know. All the hits were about workplace collaborations. So like colleagues getting together to sort of brainstorm ideas, things like that. Mm-hmm. So I thought, okay, I guess creation session is not a commonly used phrase for what we're talking about, which I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's like, what do you call it?
What do you call it? So my first question for you is how did you first hear about it? Because it's not a very common phrase.
Well, I think I heard about it not in that phrase. So like I actually hadn't heard the term creation session until you asked me about creation session. I was like, oh, okay, that's a cool term for it. So I think that the first time I really heard about what we're calling creation sessions is from Gabrielle Bernstein. I don't know if you're familiar with her, but I was doing a manifesting challenge. I do challenges, like quarterly challenges here and there, and she does a lot of them. And I was doing a manifesting one, and it was one of the exercises, because it's like 21 days, but one of the exercises was get into the flow state and visualize what you want, to call it in. And so that was the first time. But then throughout our program, and specifically Michelle has talked a lot about it lately, Michelle Chalfant, about like I don't know what she calls it either. Does she call it creation sessions? But
That's where I heard it from on a
okay.
call. It was
Okay.
a call with her. She mentioned it, and I was like,
Well, that makes sense. So then whenever she talked about like her practice with it, I was like, oh, this is really cool because it's not taking such the step by step for manifesting. It's just taking this one little snippet and just having that moment, that creation session, as you call it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned like manifesting, because um I wanted to touch on that, how the other things that, because people may have heard of this concept but not heard creation session, and
Right.
like maybe see this title and are like, what are you talking about? So yeah, manifesting is one, and a lot of about attracting, like law of attraction, all
Yes.
along those same lines, is like bringing in what you want.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
creation session is just another word for it, but I liked it because it sounded like a little more like a something you could make a daily practice, a
Yeah.
session. You know, when you're like creation session, it's kind of to the point, and maybe for people who aren't so woo, like some of
Your
us are.
everyday Joe.
Yeah, like manifesting your desires, like it might sound a little
Right.
too out there, but like
Right.
creation session is like, yeah, let's have a session. It's like create some stuff.
Yeah. I
So
love that.
yeah. So anyway, I thought that
It's
was
like the layman's term.
yeah, right. So anyway, so I'm curious what so you've done this, um
Mhm.
and when you first tried something like this, like tell me what that was like. Did you follow something that Gabby Bernstein suggested? Did you kind of come up with your own method?
So I was actually, that's the first time I had like heard about it was through that challenge, but I think it was a couple years ago, March of 2021, maybe, or 2020. No, it was 2021 because it was after. So anyways, I was on this cruise and it was a Abraham Hicks cruise.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the law of attraction. So we had like the cruise, but then we would go to the little seminars and listen to the people that were called up and things like that. And it was really just about like raising that vibration. And at the time, I was in a relationship that I wasn't feeling fulfilled from, but I loved the person so much that I just didn't want to give up unless I tried everything that I possibly could. Kind of like when you are loving someone for the potential, but not for like the present moment kind of thing. So that's the situation where I was in. And it was all about like, whenever we find ourselves going through the story of what we don't want, we attract more of what we don't want. And it's like a replaying on this story, this negative energy, and it's just getting stuck and attracting more of that. So we talked about like the next best feeling or what do you want instead? And this was just like vocal talking. So what I found is whenever I came home, and I was still in that relationship, instead of, and I don't know where I got this from, but I just started doing this. But when I would feel maybe like I wanted more affection or I wanted more to feel more love from this person. And, you know, I had asked for these things. I had done the communication part, but it just wasn't happening. And so instead of ruminating on that, what I would do is I would escape to this place. It was actually my kitchen in my head. I would escape to my kitchen mentally and I would visualize myself at the sink with this person behind me coming up and hugging me and like nuzzling in my shoulder and just feeling so much love from a partner. And that's like when I first started doing it. I didn't know what I was doing. That was before I learned the manifesting tools and techniques. But so the first time I was practicing this was just by trying to change my vibration, just from things I had learned like subconsciously.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now I think there's a couple things you mentioned there. One, Um, for those who don't know, could you just briefly tell us who Abraham Hicks is?
Yes. So Abraham Hicks, we were talking about the law of attraction. Actually, the author of the book, what is it called? Something and it will be yours. I can't remember. It's about speaking it into existence. Asking it is given. Okay, there we go.
Okay.
It was like on the top of my head. I couldn't think of it. Asking it is given. How to manifest your desires. So the author of this book, and Abraham, with the whole spiel, I think now, I'm not positive if the approach has changed, but they are an author, and there's a lot of YouTube snippets you can look up, just with little excerpts from these cruises. They do cruises where the audience gets called in to come up with a question, and then they say that like the questions that are asked are information that everyone needs in the audience, and that you leave feeling, which I can attest, like it was a amazing experience, and it really was a catalyst for my journey that I had already started, but to really just be around so many like-minded individuals and to see the type of love and fun that people were able to have, like healthy fun, just all around, high vibrations, just from an authentic place. Like it was really great. But going back to what you said, I think that they do little YouTube snippets now that are like excerpts from the cruise and these talks that they have. So you can definitely look them up, get the book. Yeah.
And the work is the foundation of the work is this manifesting.
It's the law of
Right?
attraction.
The law of attraction.
Yeah. So it's basically the principle that the vibe that you put out is what you're going to attract more of.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are stuck in a negative loop, then you're probably going to stay stuck in a negative loop unless you can think your way into a more aligned feeling with what it is that you want. It's not always easy, and it seems, if you're not there yet and you're not ready, it can seem like, oh yeah, sure, just think that I'm happy. But I mean, there's methods to it, so it's a practice.
Yeah, and I think I want to back up a little bit, and because we're talking about manifesting and law of attraction and creation, for anyone who maybe this is a foreign concept, I'm gonna, like, very, very basic. The concept is that you can manifest what you want using your thoughts, and that's really like the foundation. But what is really important is that once you think it, you have to feel it as well, because that kind of creates the energy going out toward to attract in what you want. Because if you're like, well, I want to make $10,000 this month, so, and you're like saying that every day, and then this part in the back of your mind is like, you're freaking crazy. You're not. It's not going to happen. Then it's like you're not, because you have to be feeling like, yes, $10,000 a month is mine. So that's those two parts are, I think, are important. Is the feeling.
Absolutely. You
So
move it from up here to down here, it goes from a thought to a feeling and a belief. And then letting go of the outcome too, because that's a lot of people will be like, well, I said that I wanted this month. And it's when you're manifesting, you don't get to choose when you're going to get it. You can't put a timeline, and you can't put a way. The how, the when, all of that, you have to let it go and just trust that it's going to come when it's time. And until then, you're enjoying yourself.
yeah, I'm glad you said that. That's because that's another important component, I think, is allowing, allowing it to happen. Like, you have to put it out there, but then it's out there, and then it's
right.
You have to allow for, like you said, the how and the when. That's not up to you. So the letting go, I like that you said that too. Let go.
Manic manifesting is a whole nother.
Oh my gosh,
that's a real thing, and that is a whole nother thing that's very common when people start to learn about manifesting. That actually blocks them from being able to manifest.
That's the first time I've heard that phrase, and like I totally get it.
It's like, well, I'm meditating. I did the journal. I did the creation session. I'm drinking the green juice. Like nothing's happening. It's like, well, that's why. Chill.
Yeah.
Woosah. Let it go.
Slow down.
Sit back and attract.
Oh, sit back and attract. I like that.
I'm
Put that on a t-shirt, Emily.
gonna write that one down. Sit back and attract. That's a good
Put
one.
it on a t-shirt, put it on a bumper sticker. So I'm curious. So, okay, before I ask, I was going to ask you like how often you do these manifestations or creation sessions, but I want to go back because I'd love for you to share something that you were envisioning that came to you.
Actually, that energy that I was calling in, that at the kitchen, doing the dishes, that vision that I was going to, I say escaping to, but that's like a negative way of putting what I was doing. It was more so, instead of me going into story, I was going into future, like what I know that I want, what I deserve. At the time, I could have been like, it has to be with this guy that I was with, right? But I wasn't doing anything outside of my relationship. I was still being a good partner. I was just like, this is what I want. Like, this is what I deserve. This is where it's at. So the relationship ended. Through gaining confidence, the relationship ended. And then I was alone for a period of time where I got to the point where, I really enjoyed being alone. I was having fun. I was not really involved in relationship with others much at all. Wasn't really dating, talking to anyone, just kind of doing my own thing. It was my me time. And I still was going back to that vision. And I think actually what happened, and it's funny because earlier you talked about that little voice, like when I'm going to make 10,000. Oh, I don't think you're going to do that. So it was during coaching training last year that I went in to that experience single, and I had like this block around dating. Like there were potentials that I was just like, I don't want to date. Like, I don't want to get on a dating site. That doesn't feel aligned with me. Like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And still doing the visualization, just knowing that I do want true love one day. Because I've always been such a romantic person, but life kind of sucker punched me in some of the relationships that I attracted before I was really aligned with my true self. I was attracting a lot of like toxic relationships, and that's all I really ever saw. So my vision of love and romance and what I wanted, for so long, I was told by others that I began to believe myself that doesn't exist. That doesn't exist. No one's going to come in and treat me this way. Everything is a compromise. Everything has to be a conversation and a sacrifice. And like, it has to be hard. And you're not always going to get what you want. And that was my truth. And so while on the training trip, I was doing some work with another coach where we were going into that block, because what would happen is I would get to this point in the visualization. I would be at the sink, wrap the arms around me, and it would stop. And it would stop. Every time, stop. And like, I wanted to keep going and more, like, what's going to happen next? Are we going to kiss? So you're going to sweep me off my feet? What's going to happen here? And I couldn't go farther. And someone asked, like, well, do you ever think about like kissing this person? And I'm like, oh, no. And I'm realizing there's my block. Why not? Oh, because it's cringy. Okay, if I think it's cringy, I'm not going to get it. Because what my true self wants is that. But there's this adolescent part of me that thinks that's cringy. So she's blocking me from getting what it is that I want. So I do this exercise with a coach, and it was so funny. I'll never forget. She asked me, we were talking about true love, and she's like, well, what's unconditional love that you felt? I was like, from my dog. And she's like, yeah, what do you have to do for your dog to show you that unconditional love? And I was like, just show up. She's like, right. I'm like, oh. She's like, if you just show up and something is not aligned for you, and so what? You're cool by yourself anyway. I'm like, wow. So there is no pressure to like be a certain way, act a certain way, look a certain way. Like, no, it's about me and what I want. And if I want a partner who's going to accept me for who I am, where I'm not playing this game anymore and I'm not settling anymore. And what I mean by that is not to discount another person, but I'm not staying somewhere that I know isn't right for me in my heart. After that, I just felt like this opening happened. And then I went into that visualization, and I like started like really hugging this person and feeling their love so much more. And like when you're in that, the thing is, I'm feeling that love from myself. I'm alone in my bed and I'm feeling this energy. So I don't actually need another person. So that's the thing about the manifesting, is we talk about going from here to into the feeling. I'm feeling it. Our brains don't know the difference between if it's real or if this is just something that's going on. The experience is the same when we're really tuned into it. So I'm just feeling like I already have this. And when I came back, I started having conversation with someone who was an acquaintance of mine, and we started getting to know each other. And the first night that we hung out, I was like, oh my gosh, like I just had this feeling like I had never felt before. Like, we were not even dating anything. We were just hanging out. And I was like, this is my person. Like, whoa, wait, this is that energy that I've been feeling. And I'm not jumping to the gun, things could have happened, but flash forward, we're going on a year later. And I mean, I have never felt so much support and love and attention and affection and like healthy dynamics with a partner that I have in this relationship. And it's funny because he went through the same exact thing where like that's ultimately what he wanted, but just felt like he was not deserving either. And so you just never know what is going to happen. I didn't know that. I wasn't even really trying, this was an acquaintance, a friend. We were hanging out. We had like a little fire pit, just sitting around the fire, just sharing stories. And then we started talking about our inner child and how our inner children could be friends. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh, wow. Like, chill out. But then he was also like, chill out. Like, we were both so excited. And it was just vibrational match because I aligned with that energy. Like, I was showing up ready for that. I wasn't guarded. Because I was ready that if it didn't work out, I'm fine. I'm not attached to the outcome. It's this or something better. And like, if it could get better than this, wow, because this is amazing. So that's my story on my first successful manifestation.
And like huge.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
What an amazing story. And like you said, it was for a while you were sort of visualizing sort of what you wanted, but then you weren't 100% letting yourself believe it, believe what you deserved and feel that you deserved it, and let yourself imagine the whole thing, not just this little part, like just a little hug. Like you were stopping yourself after that because something inside you didn't buy it.
Because I had never had it before, and we're creatures of habit, and that's ego. Ego is like, if I haven't had this, it's not possible.
Sure.
Like, stop. No. And I'm like, stop it. It is possible. And I will never forget the first time I was doing the dishes and he came behind me and it was like, I started crying. I
Wow.
just started crying and I turned and I was like, I've gone this place in my head so many times alone.
Wow.
And now you're here. And this is really happening.
That's awesome. That's so beautiful. Like, I can't even imagine that. Yeah, it's like your vision come to life. Like, what a powerful moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, there was something you said, shoot. Now I'm trying to remember. Uh, when I was talking about you didn't, because you had never experienced it before. It's hard for you to imagine that, right? And I think that was a good point. How we're creatures of habit. So it's like if you're saying I want $10,000 a month, but you've never had that, so it's hard to wrap your head around how that's possible. So
Mhm.
I think that's important. Is again allowing for anything, like allowing for the possibility that anything is possible. Really,
Mhm. Mhm.
um, yeah, I think that's a big one.
Letting go of the how, for sure.
Yeah, because our brains want to be like, okay, well, how am I going to do that?
Mhm.
And what extra work am I
Mhm.
going to do? And
Mhm.
how am I going to make all of this add up to 10,000? That's what our brain's doing. Do, 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 do.
Yes.
All the wheels are turning,
Yes.
and we have to, bring it down into our heart, into our soul. Let go of the how. I like that how you said that. Let go of the how,
Mhm.
and just feel. I'm making $10,000. Wow, I'm so grateful for that. Like that is amazing.
Yeah,
Go
how do you
me.
feel when you see it in your bank account? What are you gonna do with it? How are you gonna feel when you do what you're gonna do with it? How are you gonna share it with other people? How are they gonna feel? Is that gonna maximize that feeling? Like, when you're sitting back, what does it feel like to be in that? And then how can you draw your attention to areas where you may have parts of that in your life? And so that your attention is focusing on what you do have rather than that sense of lack.
Right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I just trying to blank again. I just had something you said, and woof. Oh, yeah. So when you talked about your visualization when you were doing it on your own and you were actually feeling that love,
Mm,
that part is so important. Is feeling as if you already have it, whatever the thing is that you're trying to manifest. Part of that um, visualization, that manifestation time, is feeling like it's already there. And for you, it was you were able to just feel so much love. And if I know I keep using this money example, I just feel like it's an easy one. Um,
well, it's good to relate. Like, some people may not need love. Some people may want money. Like,
may want
it's,
the yeah,
it's easier for everyone to understand.
yeah. So like you mentioned, the bank account. Like imagine, you log into your bank account and you see that it's X amount of whatever amount that you want, and it's about feeling like it's already there.
Mhm.
And that's a really,
And
really important feeling.
the other part that I think is so important is when you go in, if you don't feel like it's there, why don't you? And questioning that part, because like for me, the other example, and I don't have to go into the big details of it, but there was another time where I was kind of like guided into like go in and have a creation session on what you want your coaching practice to look like. And I'm going in and I'm like, I can't. Nothing's coming up. How many clients? I don't know. How many hours a week? I don't know. How much money? I don't know. And I'm like, whoa, why don't I know? And I'm like, oh, I just don't like goals. And I'm like, that doesn't feel right. That feels like some other part of me saying, like, I just don't do goals. That's not true. That's not my truth. So just getting curious and being like, well, what is blocking me from really being able to picture this? Because maybe it's, hey, you know, what kind of home do you want to live in? Like, what kind of neighborhood do you want to live in? And being like, I have no idea. Okay, number one, that's cool because that's a starting point, because then you can really get to choose. You always get to choose. But when you have a block that's like, I can't even think about it, not because it's not important to me, but because there's something there stopping me. Because my practice with coaching and with my clients is very important to me. So I want to be able to put in energy and creation and the flow of where I want to take it. I don't want to be stuck. And that's where I was. But what happened is I looked at, why am I stuck? And I learned a lot. I learned a lot. And it was my other job. It was, I have so many responsibilities and duties that I can't imagine at all this thing, the coaching taking off even more, because I can't imagine doing less with this job. And then if I'm doing both, I'm going to be so burnt out. So why spend time trying to create more clients or attract more when I can't even do it? And I'm like, is the coaching important to me? Absolutely. Okay, then what do I need to do? I need to have a conversation. I need to do less here. And I went in, and I've never had the confidence to go in and say, look, this is what I'm doing. This is what I need someone else to do. I need to delegate these things out. I need to do less. I still want to be involved. I want to be here. I love my career in behavior analysis, but I love this career that is in my future too with coaching. And I don't want to have to walk away from either one. And I don't have to, because that's my choice.
Mm-hmm.
But through that block is where I learned all of that, where I had that conversation, where I was able to create more flexibility in my schedule and open up time for new clients. And I think it was like a week or two after I really had that conversation that, boom, I had 4 consultations. I had never had a single consultation yet. I had 4 consultations, book. I tripled my clients.
Wow.
But it was because I had to look at what was stopping me from being able to have that creation session. So it's not just about what happens in that session too, but it's about like getting curious on what comes up, either blocking you from having it, or when you're in the session, those little thoughts, like you said, well, I'm never going to be able to do that. I've never done that before. And then going in and being like, hey, who believes that? Because there's a big part of me here that's trying to shift into this direction, but I see that there's still a little bit gunk in here. Like, let me try to clean that up. What can I do for you? What do you need? Like, what's going on here? So that you really can get aligned with that direction that you want to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it wasn't, you weren't able to even visualize what you wanted to manifest because there was a block. So once you looked at the block, like that's the first thing, is like, look at it. And then you were able to kind of move through it, kind of dissolve it by saying, okay, here's the block. The block is my current career. Let me go at that and say what I need. And you said what you needed. And then it was like I'm imagining just this obstacles like dissolving, and then boom, like clients, you tripled your clients, not by any more marketing, not by spending any more money putting your name out there, just by letting go of what was blocking you and making space. You made space for this new things to appear.
And I became aligned with receiving because I had a block, right? I was like, I don't want more clients. I can't handle it. And so it's really great because that was a protection at the time. If I would have had more clients coming in and not had the time, I would have been so overwhelmed, and I don't know the quality of how those sessions would be.
And like you said, you would have been completely burnt out. So that part that was sort of holding you back was doing it as a way to protect you.
And
from
I
being
needed
taken.
it. So I really thanked it after. I was like, thank you for for keeping that there, for keeping that block up until I was ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So, are you, I wonder, like, are you still doing anything as far as like a creation session or a manifestation practice to um, kind of develop anything personally, professionally? Is it still sort of a practice for you?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. In multiple areas, I would say. Something for me personally is I have been in the manic phase of like, I have to meditate every day. I have to do this every day. I have to. And I've stopped. I've given myself permission to check in and see what I need when I need it. So, as far as like a daily practice that I live by, I have let myself off the hook for that. I meditate several times a week when I want to. I journal every day when I want to journal. But one thing that I do, so there's a couple things. There's future wise, like there are goals of mine that I'm going in doing these manifestations, working to achieve. But I think one that is really important, and it's a different spin on what we've been talking about, that the listeners I think can apply into like even just everyday life, is creating the day you want to have. Like how, and this kind of goes into a quote like, how do I want to feel today? How do I want to feel today, and going into that feeling. So I'm laying in bed and I have a choice. I wake up and I can either be like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, it's raining outside. I just want to stay in bed all day in my pajamas. And I can go down that. Or I can be like, oh, wow, I'm really tired. I think I'm going to make myself a really nice coffee. I'm going to put some vanilla in it, and I'm going to add some cinnamon sugar on top, and I'm going to whip it up, and that's going to be great. I'm going to start the day by doing that for myself. That's going to help wake me up, and I'm going to eat a nourishing breakfast. We can go into like, this is a problem, and I'm spiraling about how it's a problem and how miserable I am and how this is going to impact my day. Or we can go into like, this is a feeling, this is how I'm going to make it better, and this is where I want my day to go. And like visualizing, okay, whatever it is we want to feel. So if I'm feeling blah, and I wish I was feeling energized or happy, I can go in and like create that version of myself. Like, okay, well, what would the happiest version of me do if she got out of bed? What would she be doing? Would she put music on? Start dancing around to get ready? Okay, maybe I could try that, see how it works. Okay, I put my favorite song on and boom, I'm already in the groove. Just from like 1 second of like, well, let me visualize, what would that part of me look like? Or what would someone who is not stressed look like driving up to work? Well, I'm driving up, not rushing to grab all my stuff. I'm just, I have 2 minutes left of this podcast. I'm going to listen to it. Cool. Go in. Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm just going to my office, light my candle. Whatever you need, visualize that version of yourself if you don't feel aligned with them, and then take a step to become aligned with them, and then see what happens. I do that often.
Yeah. I think this is a perfect time for Who Said That? 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 Who's that? Who's that? So, Emily, I understand you have a quote or two to share. And it seems like a good time with the way the conversation's going. So, shoot.
Okay, so first is, and this is a Gabby quote. It's called daily design, her daily design method, which is what I was just referring to about like, how do I want to feel today? So this is the quote is, how do I want to feel? Who do I want to be? What do I want to give? And what do I want to receive?
Mm, wow. So, I mean, starting your day with that seems like it could really change things.
You're setting an intention and you're tuning in, and then it goes perfectly with this episode on when it's how do I want to feel, drop into that feeling, visualize that, and then create that for yourself for your day. Because if you can do that every day, it doesn't feel like such a long-term thing, like something is so far away. You're raising your vibration. When you raise your vibration, you attract what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't even realize incrementally you've got a higher vibe naturally, and it's not forced.
Right. Yeah. And I just want to be clear that when we say drop in, for anyone who's not familiar with that, it's basically what we mean is moving from your brain into your body. So if you think, okay, I want the day to go this way, then close your eyes or don't, whatever feels right, and feel it in your body. What does that feel like if I'm driving to work happy? If I'm totally chill when I walk into the office, what does that feel like? So it's dropping from your brain inside to experience the feeling.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Because
And
going in your brain, just like, oh, I'm going to drive to work. I'm going to, it's like, how's that going to feel for you?
mm-hmm, slow it down
Right.
and feel it.
Yes.
Um, and I'll go ahead and share this other quote from this very wise person.
Yes. Oh, me.
This is
You said I'll go ahead and share it. I was
oh,
like,
you can. I
oh, me.
can.
Well,
I
no,
can.
it was perfect where you ended with, and now drop in and feel it. That's right. My quote is, feel it into existence.
Yep.
And I'm writing that
I
down right
love that. Feel it into existence. I mean,
there's so many quotes about like speak it into existence, believe it into existence, or but it's all about feeling it. When you can't feel that feeling, that's when you know, okay, this is why I'm not getting whatever it is that I desire, because I can't feel it. You got to feel it.
yeah, I feel like that's where the magic happens. You can come up with the most detailed plan in your brain and write it down. But if you're not able to feel what it feels like to actually have all of that, then it's going to feel forced and it's going to be hard. And it's going to be it feels like I'm picturing like just like walking through mud, like that's how you're going to be getting to your
Yeah. It's like
goal is like trudging along.
right. And that would be more of like an energetic standpoint. That would be more draining. But
Oh, for
going
sure.
it, feeling it is more like you're getting even more energy, because the energy that you're experiencing from that feeling is like so good. That's how you want to feel. So you don't feel depleted. You feel like energized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I love that quote. Both of those. Thank you.
Thank you.
Super cool. So let's try to. I'd like to give maybe a few steps for someone who is new to this concept and they're like, that sounds cool. I want to try to manifest something in my life. Like, um, maybe we can share, maybe we can come up with a few just basic steps to here's how to get started. And I like your idea of starting with just the day. It doesn't have to be this major career change or something. It can be if that's what you want.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the idea of starting with how do I want this day to look as a way to sort of introduce yourself to feeling it into existence. So,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's like, this is a completely foreign concept, what might you say to get started?
I would say think of an area in your life that you either struggle with, wish was different, or just kind of feel not excited about. Because it's
Okay.
easier if you don't have any experience doing this, it's a lot easier to associate with like negative feelings
Mm-hmm.
or stories or limiting beliefs, because when we're not doing self work or we're not familiar with these kind of concepts, that's kind of where human conditioning is. Not everybody, but you know, people walk around complaining about things. Okay, that's perfect. What do you complain about? Step one, what do you complain about? All right, perfect. If you could have any solution in the world, step two, what would that be? What would you like instead?
Yeah. What would you like instead? Yeah. And then step 3 would be, I would think, feel it's okay. Now you have what you want instead. And what does that feel like?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then I feel like between steps 2 and 3 is where all the work would have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes it's easier to decide, like, okay, well, that's what it would be. And then, like, okay, well, you got it. Now what? Like, oh, no, I don't have it. Like, whoa, hold on. It's like, yeah, this is where we need to work. And you
Yeah.
know, a great Michelle's last podcast, I don't know what number it was, but it was last week, I believe, 5 ways to get unstuck. Michelle
Unstuck.
Chalfant on the adult
Yeah.
chair. Between those steps 2 and 3, if you feel stuck, go there. So a lot
Yeah.
of times that's where, when you do that work, like for my example of just going in, having that conversation, boom, things open up.
Right. Yeah. I'll add that link to the show notes for that episode because that fits in perfectly with, you're right, between step 2 and 3.
Yes.
You
So
might have
get
to do,
unstuck.
yeah,
Yes.
get unstuck. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then, so we have step 1, what's the issue? Step 2, what do you want instead? Step 3, how does it feel when you have it? And then step 4, let go and trust
Oh, yeah.
that it's coming. Like just let go and live your life
Mm-hmm.
and stay aligned with that.
Right. Let go and trust. That's so important. Once you get to the point where you can feel it, then it's like you're just sending it out there like, okay, here it
Mhm.
is.
Mhm. Yeah, and while you
Let it
let go
happen.
and trust, you look for it in your life. You know, if you want $10,000, well, when you get a deposit for $1,000, you're like, yes, I got $1,000. More of that, please. I'll take some more of that. Okay, I'm gonna go do this. Or even if it's just to pay your bills, like my bills are paid. What a wonderful feeling. I still have this much money in my account. Yes, I am abundant. Like I've got this. This is mine. There's more on the way. I
Yeah.
can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I'm glad you said that. Is, appreciating all the little bits along the way
Yeah. That's
and
called
recognizing.
driftwood. And in a lot of different, like we talked about Abraham, we talked about Gabby. It's called driftwood. They all mention it. I think Michelle mentions it too, looking for the driftwood. And that
Mm-hmm.
just means that you're looking for like, what are the little cues in your life that like, oh, I already have some of this. I already feel this way sometimes. Or like, oh, it's kind of like a precursor to what's coming. Just noticing that, it helps you again to not be in that story of lack and not be in that, oh, I wish, but like, I'm grateful, I'm abundant.
Yeah. So the driftwood analogy is that's sort of like a river theme. like sort of your path, following your path and
Mm-hmm.
letting, yeah, because I've heard that too, like the whole river analogy, because it's going with the flow. So then the
Yes.
driftwood is the pieces you see along the way that you're like, oh, cool. That's cool. I like that. I like that.
Yes.
Bring me some more of that. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
That's cool.
Exactly.
I
And
like
when
that.
you experience something that maybe you don't like, use that as a guide to say, like, okay, well, this is showing me what I do want more of. Instead of getting stuck in the story and then go and tell everyone under the sun about how bad of a day you had, use that as like, okay, so I don't like when my boss yells at me. It's important to me that in this career that I'm going to be moving into, that we have mutual respect. Cool. So this allowed me to think about what I do want instead. Okay, I'm very clear on that. I'm very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Respectful communication is a value of mine. This helped me to discover my value.
Yeah.
Looking at that positive twist.
Yeah. Right. Because I do think it's really easy to identify the things we don't like and don't want. So then the next step is to flip that and say, okay, what do I want instead? So yeah,
Exactly.
I like that example you did. It's like, all right, I don't like this situation. So what's the ideal situation? And put myself there, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I wanted to mention one idea for, because some people are not very visual, or it's kind of a challenge to, you know, say, oh, close your eyes and you imagine yourself in this place, and it's like it doesn't happen easily for some people. And I thought another good method for creating and manifesting, for people like that, is a vision board. And there's like plenty of ideas for that online, and basically that way you're putting, you know, it's just a piece of poster board or cardboard. You're putting pictures and words, of the things that you want in your life. And the cool thing about that is that you can, every day you can look at it. So you don't have to, if it's harder for you to picture those things, just make it a tangible thing that you can look at.
For
And
sure.
then, you know, you look at that, a picture of your bank statement, or, you know, a picture of maybe this career that you're interested in. And then you can look at that every day. And still, the after you look at it, the feeling is the important part. So look at it and be like, yes, I have $100,000 in my bank account. Sweet. You know, like look at that, feel it. So
Yes.
I wanted to point that out because some people, you know, you say visualize and they're like, ah.
That's a really good point. I mean, true. If you take it like that, you could do it that way, that you could write it out and read it to yourself to hear it back.
Oh, that's a good one.
The possibilities are endless. You could record yourself, play yourself speaking, sit back and listen to yourself speaking. I mean, you could go any direction, whatever the person who is trying to use this technique, wherever they are, if they're auditory, sensory, visual. Yeah, for
Sure.
sure. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think it could, we could have a whole nother episode just on all the different methods for this, because like you're saying, there's your own visualization, there's vision boards, there's journaling, there's voice memos, and that's worked really great for people.
True.
So yeah, that's a lot. Maybe I might ask you to come back again and be like, all right, let's break down these, because there's some really cool ideas in there.
Yeah, I'd be honored to come back.
um all right, well, I if people want to find you for one-on-one coaching, which I would highly recommend because Emily is lovely.
Oh, thank you.
So her website is illuminatelife.coach, and I'll put all of this in the show notes. And you can also find her on Instagram at Illuminate Life Coach. So I'm going to put all that in the show notes, so that people can find you.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
I
it.
so appreciate you chatting with me today. It was really awesome.
It was great to see you again and just to have this conversation. It was really energizing.
Yeah, awesome. I can't wait to see what you create next.
I can't wait to see what you create next.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. And to all the listeners, remember, you are enough just as you are, and you are loved. Make a great day.